The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is key to enhance our skills and grow us as a professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is how to make your business setups and notice your HR metrics. And today for this webinar, we have Mr. Santosh Panikkar. He is Chief People Officer at Seer IT and Management Services Private Limited. Mr. Santosh is a HR professional with over 23 years of rich and varied experience in human resource. Santosh has a gamut of expertise under his fold, formulating policies and processes, recruitment, designing and implementation effective HR interventions, designing compensation and benefit programs, industrial relations, employee welfare, training and development are the areas that he has developed into and contributed to organization and to the industry at large. A professional known for his strategic insight, Santosh is adept at aligning HR to the business need of an organization, and this is what gives him a competitive edge as a leader. He lives by innovation and agility and ensures HR is responsive and proactive in its approach as a function. Currently, he is working with Sears Holding India as a Chief People Officer since April 2010. Santosh has contributed immensely in his tenure with the brand like Accor Services Limited, Reliance Retail Limited, Hindustan Lever Limited, Whirlpool, Saint-Gobain, Secret India, and Funelex, and many more. His USP includes setting HR operation from scratch and seeing it end-to-end. In his career of 23 years, he has the achievement of setting up the HR practices of 5 startups. Apart, he has also awarded many prizes. For example, Santosh Panikkar bagged the Chief Human Resource Officer, that is CHRO award from ET Now. Another stellar win by Santosh was the Dream Companies to Work For, HR Leadership Award 2012 by Bloomberg TV India. This reward recognizes outstanding HR leadership that facilitate initiative to create a wonderful workplace. Santosh and his able talent management team then went to win Asia's Best Employer Brand Award for year 2013 and bagged 4 awards. So without any further delay, I introduce you to all our guest speaker. Over to you, Santosh.
Thanks, Gaurav. Good evening, friends, and pleasure to interact with you over next 1 hour. The subject is very interesting personally for me when it comes to HR metrics, and I'll be sharing with you in terms of whatever I am sharing in next 1 hour is purely based on my personal experiences of having worked with different MNCs, with different industries. Currently, for last almost 6 years, I am with IT. Prior to that, Gaurav would have shared the details. You just heard that. I have been working with the retail domain. I have worked with consumer durables. I have worked with FMCG domain. So having this rich experience, when Gaurav and team approached, I thought it would be apt moment for me to share my personal experiences for you. So when we are talking in next, when I'm sharing my personal perspective, it's all based on my past experience that I had working with different companies. Majority or major experiences that I would be sharing with you all would be with regards to my current role here in Sears. So I would start with my presentation in terms of first giving you a whole background in terms of what's the current business global context, because it's very important when we within HR what we always say is we need to align ourselves to the business, and it's very important for any HR professional to first know the business context, the business model, and how the business is operating in the global global environment. So if you look at the global environment today, it's going through rapid changes. A lot of unstable global economic conditions. You would have read about Japan yesterday, where it is about to enter recession, due to some tax increase which the Prime Minister was planning. So we need to keep a tab of what's happening across the globe because these scenarios are changing on a real-time basis. Besides it, from an HR standpoint, what we also see is availability of talent is going to be a key issue, and it's already an issue in some of the countries which we are observing. And I hope you would have this data point that over a period of next 20-30 years, India would emerge as one of the strongest country, or the country with maximum skilled workforce. We cannot be happy about it, having the reason being because that what it means is the global countries or other countries would be poaching the talent from India. So that's very important thing that we need to know. Naturally, when we have talent, typically we associate the word talent to the people. But I think very important piece there is the shortage of skills. Skills is basically we always define your competencies as skill, knowledge, and ability of an individual to perform the job. So typically, skill is something which helps the associate or the person to perform the job on the ground. And what we have seen is, especially in the IT domain, is while there are many positions available in the market, but the skills are missing. And that continues when I interact with other HR colleagues in different parts of the world and in India. I think this is a common concern which is coming across within the HR fraternity. Besides that, what we have seen as a challenge is the knowledge gap. So knowledge gap from an IT context would be, today 18 lakh engineers are passing out from engineering colleges, and most of them are applying for jobs in IT sector. So what we looked at, when we go to campuses for hiring, the numbers published by NASSCOM shows that only 26% of them are employable. So there is a lot of knowledge gap, skill gap across the country, and I hope you are aware that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has driven a lot of initiative around this, where he is trying to bridge the around skill development, where I think this gap is trying to be fulfilled. Besides that, I think increased competition continues to be. I think we are all living in a global world, so the competition is no more between two entities within a country or within a city. It's more of global, and with the internet penetration increasing across the globe, it becomes more challenging for all the companies to stay there in the market, and the ultimate thing would remain is the fittest would survive. What is also important and what is the challenge what we see is every company is trying to innovate. However, what stands out is who is the first one to go to the market with the right product, right solution, or right service, and that will continue to be. And so one of the challenges the companies are facing is to get it right the first time, rather than introducing a product and then over a period of time, basically there are competitors who take over. And to ensure that they are able to sustain the go-to-market this thing what they had introduced, it's very important for them to get it right the first time. So when we have this global context, I think I would also like to give a perspective from an HR. What is the HR global context? So today's HR leaders face unprecedented challenges in making the most of their human capital investment. Change is the only constant in today's business world. Legal compliances, global competition for talent, outsourcing labor, offshore locations with remote workers. So what I mean here is global workforce and an aging population are just some of the unique business challenges faced by any organization today. And if you really see, these were unheard of initially, So we have more and more virtual things, at least in IT we notice this. There are teams working from different parts of the country, and their managers would be sitting in the west side of the world, and whereas the team is sitting on the east or central part of the world. So this is a reality, and so the challenge for HR is how we are adapting ourselves, aligning ourselves to this change. And what we always say, which I have not mentioned here, is the managing the generation Y, because that is one of the huge challenges that we see over a period of time coming up. Because this generation Y is very fast, they want things fast, they want decision fast, they want a mobile office, they want to enjoy their life, they want empowerment, they are hungry for knowledge, they want to do things differently, they challenge the current status quo. So that is the huge expectations from Generation Y. When we look at Generation Y, they have huge expectations from the corporation, the way the corporations work. So while I have not mentioned it there, but Generation Y is also a huge challenge for the HR, keeping in mind the business context. So why HR analytics? So I think when we look at it from an IT standpoint, any IT company, when I say IT or ITES services company, around 60 to 70% of their budget is around people or people-related costs. And that's why any boardrooms you enter into an IT company, a lot of discussions around the talent or human capital you can call. Different people call it differently, but I think it all sums up to, it's all about the people who are working in that organization. And it's all about how these associates in the company will drive the company to the next level, which the the organization would have envisaged. Having said that, we have some research show that leading analytics organizations have 12% better talent outcome than average organizations. So if you hire the right people at the right time with the right skill, what it means is when we compare these type of organizations, they do far better than other organizations, and the percentage that has been projected is around 12%. The next point is every company is working on tight budgets. So once the budget is allotted, it is very important for them to channelize the money in the right channel. And so that same challenge continues to be there with HR in terms of whatever interventions they plan with regards to various initiatives or various programs they drive across the organization. They need to see these monies channelized properly. While it's very difficult to measure the ROI sort of, but I think what is important is, I'll be talking to you about the impact part of HR. What it means is the HR initiatives or programs that are being driven, it has to have efficiency, it has to be effective, and it also has to have an impact. So we'll be talking about it more when we go further. What is also important is the accountability of the HR team has to go up. Because it cannot be alone the business guys, the BU heads, what we call the business unit head, who are responsible for the top line. I think overall, when you look at any organization, every organization's ultimate aim is to make profit. Profit can be made in a couple of ways. One is improving your top line, reducing your operational expenses, and thereby if you get both these things right, I think the outcome is that you have an increased EBITDA. EBITDA is nothing but gross profit. So what we are saying is basically as an HR too is accountable for the budget, what has been allotted to them, and so we say that they need to be accountable in certain way as their peers. So the big question regarding the HR metrics is, what should we measure about HR? Now, basically, this is a very open-ended question, and what is very important for all of you to remember is basically that it depends upon different geographies, different demographics, and all of that, which I'll talk to you in the subsequent slide. However, a recent survey which I have put up here, which was done by Wiser in 2012. When you look at the HR matrices, when they did the survey with around 200 top performing companies across the globe, this is what that came out with. So most of the companies have the following matrices which is there around turnover, employee performance, compensation, productivity, skills and competencies, time to hire, cost to hire, average length of employment, internal mobility, and other. So these were common HR matrices that were observed across the top performing 200 companies when Wiser had taken up this survey. So what is very important is, how do you select the right HR matrix? So my personal observation, my personal experience has been that it depends upon the industry that you are in. So when I say industry, it could be manufacturing, it could be IT, it could be retail. There are different domains, what we call within IT, we call them domains. So it depends upon the industry that you are in. Because when you look at retail, some of the metrics is that the business follows. Because as I said, the HR metrics is that whatever each company defines, it has to be closely coupled up with the business KPIs. and hence it depends upon the industry which you are working in. It also depends upon the company at what stage it's in, of the cycle it is, whether it's a startup, whether it's in a growth phase, whether it's in a steady phase. Because if you look at a startup, most of the business guys are interested to see how are we able to ramp up the team fast, are we able to roll out the HR policies, are we able to create a wow experience for the associates on the floor, are we able to basically plan proper training, development or induction for all the associates, and then also trying to see that we have these retention strategies in place at the start itself. When we look at growth, if a company is in a growth phase, what they look at is, okay, what is the capability they have within the company? Do they have proper succession planning for each of the critical roles within the organization? Then again, when the growth phase takes place, it could be in a particular city, it could be a particular country. So the cultural sensitivity of that area, whether the associates are being exposed to that. So these are various things that HR look at when we. So this could be various metrics depending on the organization. In a steady state, it is more about the productivity piece in terms of how we can improve the productivity of associates who are already working in the company. And then finally, it also depends upon the metrics where we are sending this metrics to, or who are our stakeholders. Because when you look at the board, they are more, so if it's an IT board, they would like to see what is the overall headcount, what is the bench that you maintain, what is the typically succession planning that you have, is there any acquisitions that is planned, so how is the transition going between two companies. Recently, I hope most of you would have heard about the Tech Mahindra and Mahindra Satya merger and all of that. These are very important. However, I think one main aspect which the board of directors look at is the FCPA compliance, especially from a US company standpoint. We have seen that is one thing that most of our board members ask us in terms of, are we compliant to an FCPA? What is FCPA? It's Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which is when companies practice when they have. So it's something that has been introduced in US, and most of the US MNCs ensure that their subsidiaries follow this across the globe. And it is all about your doing the business in a right way. And primarily when you engage with the government officials and all, it's all about the bribe and all. You would have read about the Walmart story where it was involved in lobbying to get some business and all. So that is covered under the FCPA. So another piece what we need to know is what questions you need to think of while arriving at HR matrices. I think what is important is what extent is the HR function doing things right. That's very important. So there again it is efficiency measures are concerned with the extent of which HR processes are undertaken in that way, and what is covered there is typically the absenteeism, the recruitment measures, the diversity, wellness measures, spend of the HR is what can be covered under that. The next one is what extent is the HR function doing the right things, which is more about effectiveness. The first one was about efficiency. The second one is more about effectiveness. So it could be pertaining to difference in the performance of an internal hire or an external hire. It could be about development of high potentials within the company. It could be about how you ensure that all the associates within the company are aligned to the company's values, purpose. So that can be covered under the effectiveness. The last but most important is to what extent or the HR impact piece, in terms of how the overall initiatives of the HR are impacting the business. And there typically we have got measures like productivity levels, CSAT, innovative capacity. So these are few examples because I am not going through what is being already shared in the slide, but I am giving some examples. When you read that slide, which are the KPIs that can be defined around those. So what I'm showing on the slide is around the HR metrics. It's around the efficiency, it's around the effectiveness, and the impact it brings to the overall organization. As I said initially that the HR has to be completely aligned to the business, and it could depend upon the domain that you are in, the geography that you are in, the phase at which the industry is in. So clearly it is evident that the HR matrix evolved from the organization strategy. So, normally in my company, I always share with my team that, so we have this compass which shows the North Pole. So for HR, the North Pole is the organizational objectives and the strategy, what it has envisaged for future, the business plan what we follow. It is very important for all the HR team to align their matrices to the overall organizational goal. And it is also basically important to arrive at consensus, basically to track the HR matrices. And very important is, most of the time HR also struggles in defining the matrices, because there are so many matrices at times, it becomes very difficult to track each one of them. So the best thing is, while defining HR matrices, it's very important that you work with the business closely to define these matrices. So there is a buy-in across the company, and also you are providing the data what your stakeholder wants. So what we are saying is, we need to, when HR is defining the HR matrices, we need to engage closely with the business units and ensure that they are aligned to our thought process, and effectively we co-create the HR matrices for the company, which is aligned to the business overall organization strategy. So when I say organizational strategy, I also thought that, we need to share with you all, with the larger group, in terms of how different companies have different strategies. So the 10 points, 10, 12 points what has been there on the screen is the organizational priority areas, which normally most of the organizations go ahead with. So it's around their revenue top line or profit. It could be around the service delivery. It could be around the maximizing shareholder value. It could be around growth through acquisitions. It could be around growth in production or serving facilities, new product development, new markets that they would like to get into, price or cost market leadership, cost control. Again, this is one very important KPI which most of the companies drive, especially in the matured stage. Innovation, that's something that continuously keeps the organization up the curve, and it helps the organization to be competitive compared to the peer group. Productivity is all about doing more with less. Customer service, ultimately every business any business that a company gets into, their ultimate aim is to create a wow experience for the customer. And finally, but most important, is about the quality of products, services or solutions that each one of them offer. So this is typically what we have observed are the organizational priorities. This I have basically put based on my experiences of having worked with different companies. So these are some examples. I would have missed something, but this was just to let you know in terms of, typically what are the organizational strategies. And it is around these points what have been mentioned here. Most of the CEOs or the managing directors of the company put up a 3-year or a 5-year business plan along with its leadership team. Once the organizational strategies are defined, I think the next role of HR is typically to align the whole HR strategies based on the business plans and then drive the initiatives around those. So what typically HR does is, map out what HR processes or interventions are required to have the maximum impact on the identified areas. And some examples could be, so in the earlier slide I showed you the organizational strategies. Around that, if an HR has to align its initiatives or programs, some of the examples could be employee skills to maximize added value or service products, improving the productivity level, agility of workforce and the organization, and most important is the innovation capacity within the organization. So these are some of the examples what I have shared, which can be mapped against the organizational strategies, and it is around this that they try to build their people practices. The next one is around HR efficiency measures. So basically, earlier I talked to you about how HR's initiatives have to be, or the HR matrices have to be around efficiency. It should be around effectiveness, and lastly the impact. So some of the efficiency measures are mentioned here, like it could be around absence, attendance measures. It could be around recruitment. It could be around retention. It could be around diversity and equality. it could be around learning and development. The next piece is the HR effectiveness measure. So how you acquire it, how you acquire your manpower, the difference in performance between an internal and external hire. It also means how effective your strength of employer brand is, and the next one is the time to competence. The next piece, which is very important, is the development. So typically in HR we always say it's recruit, retain, and sustain. However, it is very important for a company to develop the talent, because the technology is changing around, and it is the onus of the company to ensure that its talent is having the required skills, knowledge which is existing around to ensure its objectives are met. And so development is very key, and it depends on development of people in priority talent segments, basically in the areas of skill and knowledge for their current and future business priorities. So there are some companies, typically let's say a manufacturing company today is not having any ERP system, and over a period of time it would like to implement an SAP. So then as a company, as a strategic objective, they decide that they would like to train their entire associates on SAP. So then the talent development team would take this business objective and provide all relevant training for all across the organization for all its associates. However, they need to ensure that the productivity is not impacted. Last but most important is knowledge sharing and knowledge management. So what we have seen across the organization is different groups have different ideas. They go to various training. They do some on-the-job learning and development. However, there is a lot of data which is available, but it is not in the central place. And what happens is we tend to reinvent the wheel. So an associate tends to revisit the programs which somebody else in the organization would have already seen. So knowledge management is all about having a common place to share this knowledge which is already available in the system, and associates can reach out to their other counterparts and colleagues so that you are getting to know more about it. Continuing with the effectiveness piece, it's around the reward, how you differentiate. To create a meritocracy culture, it's important that you reward your associates. When you talk about reward, it could be the total reward, which is not only compensation, it includes your variable pay, it includes your work-life balance, it includes your learning and development programs that you offer. So these are some examples that we have from a total reward strategy, what we have in Sears. So similarly, it's very important that we have these programs in place helps you to retain the top talent. With regards to retention, it's also about whether the workforce is agile and it is ready to change to the changing environment across the board. It is also to ensure that your entire associates in the company are basically aligned to the company's purpose and values. Because most of the time what we have seen is the mission and values, or the mission, vision and values are only visible in the reception. But when you engage with different stakeholders with different view heads, most of them are not able to articulate this well. So it's up to HR to ensure that how you ensure that you have this programs run across the company so that an associate on the floor is aware of the overall company's vision, mission and purpose or the values. Besides that, I think the retention of key talent is very, very key. And that decides, in terms of today, everybody's, and I talked to you all about the talent, the war for talent which is likely to happen, and which continues to be even today. In this scenario, it's very imperative for any company to retain its top talent. And so, we should have programs wherein we are able to identify the key talent, key skills within the company, and from an organization standpoint, we need to have proper backup. That's where the succession planning come in. So these are some important effectiveness measures that HR needs to have in place. Continuing with other stuff is again management environment. As company grows, typically most of the companies have philosophy to groom the talent within the company, and so it's very important for the company to build the future talent leadership team. And to ensure that your leaders are ready for tomorrow, a proper development program has to be in place. it is also important for any company or the HR of that company to see that the culture of the company is responsible for the society at large as well. So, we have this example of Bhopal tragedy, because the company Union Carbide was not sensitive to the social environment, and that led to death which was in thousands. So what is important is every company needs to be responsible, and HR plays a very, very important role there. Again, when we talk about managing environment, it also means extent of alignment of management values between different business units or different divisions. What happens is when an organization grows, we see that most of the organizations work in silos, and there is typically the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and that's where the HR function plays a very important role in the company. It tries to create a platform where the different leaders, different managers from different teams come and meet. They get to know what is being done in each other's area, and so it's part of the knowledge management sort of, where they get to learn from each other. HR plays a very important role in creating such environments. Besides that, I think motivation is very key. Basically, when we say motivate, it means multiple stuff, but then very important when we look at it it has to be looked at it more from an engagement metrics standpoint. So basically, when we move to the next piece, so we talked about the efficiency, we talked about effectiveness. Now what we are talking about is the impact. So basically, any HR strategy initiative that we run across the company has to have an impact, and certain examples of these or certain KPIs that can be or measures that can be set against these are innovative capacity within the organization, employee skills to maximize added value of service product, improving the productivity level, which is doing more with less. So within IT we say that reusing of code, doing rather than manual automation. So instead of manual testing, going to an automation phase. So these are some examples. And then agility of workforce and organization in terms of let's say companies getting into a new geography, new market. So do you have an agile workforce which is able to support you when we are driving this strategy at an organization level? And so you will have this development program such one can measure the impact when the L&D programs or the development programs are run, and if these things are achieved in the company. And naturally, the last one being the customer service excellence. Basically, whatever we do, we might feel as an HR, okay, these strategies are aligned to the business. However, what is very important is how it is perceived by the end user or the consumer or the associate on the floor. And so that becomes that becomes an important KPI, and hence customer service is very one area where most of the HR functions try to check the impact of their initiatives. So certain with regards to the other points is again the HR drivers, quality of product or services being offered, stakeholder satisfaction, and so I talked about various stakeholders. So those are the stakeholders what is mentioned there. And again, the impact is measured around the price or cost leadership. Basically, it is also important to know that what are the various initiatives or processes which are needed to make maximum impact on these areas. And then also point to ponder is how can you evaluate the impact of these initiatives on the achievement of your HR strategic drivers. Now, so far whatever examples I have given, these are more from leadership and board standpoint. But I also thought when I looked at the group that is going to be participating in this, I also thought that I should share some examples of some metrics which are known to different managers, associates on the floor. And so the subsequent slides that I am showing you now is around those. So this is again, I talked to you about the survey which was taken by a company, and basically the 5 key metrics that most of the company follows are this, and which is also seen in the Indian corporates. So the 5 matrices, critical performance indicators being measured are recruitment effectiveness, critical talent retention, around productivity, around performance management, compensation and pay equity. I'll explain to you. I'll explain the details of this in the subsequent slide. So when we look at recruitment effectiveness, the KPIs could be around the vacancy rate, because that's any vacancy is like a loss opportunity. You would have an opportunity to gain revenue there, and so the vacancy rate is something very closely monitored, especially in IT domain or a sales function, because any vacancy there is a business opportunity loss. Besides that, the first year turnover. So we always have this within our teams where we said that the initial attrition should be mapped to recruitment, because they are engaging with the associates very closely when they hire them, and so they are the right people to know exactly why the new associate has left the company. So that is another KPI that can be monitored under recruitment effectiveness. New hire performance. So typically, when there is an attrition or a new position, every organization has an opportunity to move any associate within the company or hire from outside. Most of the company, and especially in Sears, we believe in moving people internally, because we do provide them relevant training and development programs. However, for few positions, it's not possible for us to move resources internally because of the criticality of the project, and we end up hiring from outside. While we do so, we compare in terms of how the performance of the new hire has been compared to the ones who are already existing in the system. And then the last but most important, which is closely monitored by the managers and hiring managers, what we call, is the time to fill. In India, typically companies have different notice period, so it could be ranging between 30 to 90 days. And typically when an associate puts in his paper, most of the managers take time to engage with the associate, try to understand what triggered the resignation and all. And during these discussions, already 20 days would have lapsed. And by the time the requisition was opened and a new candidate comes in, the position is vacant for a time, and there is which is called which I shared with you a few minutes back. These vacancies are the opportunity that a company loses in acquiring business or delivering some services or solutions. The next slide talks about the critical talent. The KPIs around that could be the resignation rate. So while this deck is available for you all, you are able to view it. Considering the time available, I'll be just talking about the key bullet points. You can go through it in detail. So the critical talent KPIs could be around the resignation rate. It could be around the resignation rate of the top performers or the high posts, promotion rate, and the promotion wait time. So typically most of the organizations have this role maturity concept and all. So that is one KPI that everybody follows. Engagement index. So basically there are many companies which have the corporate, or which is done globally. They have the global organization survey. Companies like us, we participate in the Great Place to Work survey to see where we stand vis-a-vis the top 500 companies across India. So that is a good KPI to have, because we get to know what the inputs of the critical talent are. The next but most important piece is the market compensation ratio. Basically, when we look at any survey or any attrition analysis, when we do that, it is always observed that one of the top 3 reasons is around the compensation, and hence it's one KPI that an HR team should always measure, because it helps you to be competitive and it helps you to retain your critical talent. Productivity, which I shared with you a few minutes back, is about doing more with less, and it could be around the return on human capital. So most of the companies have this sales per employee ratio. It could be around profit per employee. These are few parameters that are around productivity that one can have. The next one is around performance management. The KPIs around that could be performance appraisal participation rate, because most of the Indian corporates, they have to push when the appraisals are there. We have seen most of the HR departments have to chase the BUs to ensure that the appraisals are complete, and then you have these managers in a day closing 20 appraisals, which is not right. The appraisal is a formal process, so we always believe that appraisal has to be a day-to-day interaction with the manager and the subordinate. It is formally captured in a system through an appraisal process, and hence while doing so we need to engage, understand the aspirations of the associate, provide him the guide him, provide him the relevant training which will help him to grow up the ladder. And so that is one KPI that we always look at. Top talent. So different companies have different interventions or frameworks to identify the top talent. At CS we use the 9-box framework, which was launched by Jack Welch had launched it, and that is very effective in identifying the key talent. Typically the key talent are identified on 2 parameters. One is the performance and the other one is potential. Basically the low and high performer turnover is another KPI when we look at performance, because that is closely monitored. The last but most important is the performance rating distribution. Where do most of the associates fall within the overall performance of the company? And that's a very important benchmark. And it could be before the bell curve or normalization, which most of the companies follow. At CS, we have launched this initiative called CARE, which is all about career advancement, recognition, and enrichment program, where we have done away with the bell curve, because we feel that if an organization is able to achieve its true results, all the associates would have contributed. So by default, every associate is a contributor, and if any associate feels he has contributed significantly, he either to his project or to the process or to the overall performance of the company, they have to highlight that, and we have designed a system around that. The last but most important is the compensation and pay benefit. As I shared, in most of the surveys that we take globally, or it could be the exit interview surveys, compensation comes across as a common element, and so it's very important from an HR standpoint to have the KPIs defined there. So the performance-based pay differential is one KPI that we normally follow. Median performance and pay levels. We need to define. So most of the companies, when they define the compensation, they decide in terms of where they need to peg their compensation at. Most mature companies peg themselves at 50th percentile. Product companies or research companies or new companies who enter into the market, who find it difficult to attract talent, they map it at either 66th percentile or 90th percentile or 75th percentile. Direct compensation and direct compensation increase. So this is quite when you work in any MNC, in global organizations, in most of the European and American countries or companies, you'll always find the medical programs they run are quite expensive, and this is one KPIs that normally we have seen the MNC companies following very strictly. So basically, now that we have seen in terms of how an HR analytics, from an efficiency, effectiveness, and impact standpoint is done, but it's very important to sustain this program. And typically, the way the HR team goes about it is obtain data relating to relevant matrices, and it has to be co-created with the BU heads. Draw out insight from the data. In terms of what we have observed is most of the companies do have the data, but they miss on around analyzing the data, and that's why one needs to have the capability within the HR team to see that they are able to draw insights from that data. One that is then communicate the metrics and related insight to inform action and evaluation. So it's not only having the data, but it is also based on the data arrive at what is the trend that you are seeing in that data, and then putting up an action plan around that. And then also from an HR standpoint is you need to identify where HR can make a strategic impact. So as I shared with you, an exit interview, we come to know, okay, there is all the associates who have left the company raise issues about the manager, a particular manager. So HR has to proactively engage with the view head, engage with the manager to see what are the challenges that manager is facing with regards to his performance on the floor, or why his team is giving a different perspective to the HR. So HR plays a very important role in managing these dynamics. And last but most important is develop, review appropriate metrics. So as we said, the development has to be along with the view heads. Basically, it needs to be reviewed periodically because continuous improvement is very key for any metrics that you have in place. Normally, when we create HR matrices, there are some issues that normally most of the HR team face, and which I have talked to you about. Most of the time, what we have observed is HR team develops the data in isolation. They never engage with the business, and that becomes a challenge because your stakeholders are not knowing what data you are capturing, and there is no buy-in, and it doesn't serve the purpose then. Because if you have a data, you need to analyze it, and based on the analysis, you need to come up with action plan. And hence, as an HR, basically they need to ensure that they work closely with the business and co-create that. The other issue that the HR team faced while creating the HR metrics could be around developing metrics that is feasible to maintain and utilize. So we always say that any initiative that we launch within HR has to be sustainable. Same thing, when you maintain a data, it needs to be accurate and it needs to be utilized effectively. So that's very, very key, but that is also some challenges what we are seeing. Other issues that we are seeing is, do the measures that you track excite the business leader? Now that can be avoided provided you are able to define the KPIs along with the business. So while defining the HR metrics, it's important that HR engages with the business because they are their internal customers, and try to understand what is the data they would like to see, and provide that data, and over a period of time influence the business heads with other relevant data that might come across various interactions, various programs that the HR leads across the company. Another challenge what we have seen, or the issues that we see, is having no correlation between the people data and business data. And so far I have been highlighting this, like most of the HR function basically comes out with the data which is not aligned to the business, and normally there is no correlation between what business wants and what HR publishes. And the last but most important is, are you collecting data for the sake of it? When was the last time you challenged or removed a data process that was not delivering? So continuous improvement is very key because what was right yesterday might not be right today. So what was relevant yesterday might not be relevant today because of the changing environment. And hence these are some of the issues that HR normally, the HR team faces while creating the metrics. To conclude, I put here Dave Ulrich is a HR guru, what we call him, and so I've just captured, I borrowed his slide here. So organizational analysis often overdoses data collection and underdoes the analysis and action. Reams of data are collected, reports are generated, stats are presented, but because the data remains unfocused, little action follows. What he says is, data should be turned into action as the diagnosis process unfolds. That is, as common themes are identified, as managers with the decision-making responsibility take ownership of the data, as alternative actions are proposed. So this is what I have to share with my experience. I did not go through the common KPIs which are observed, but I thought it is very important to highlight the data which is important for the stakeholders. I could have talked to you about the joining ratios, about the attrition and all of that, but I thought it's very imperative from my side to share what my stakeholders at the board level or at the BU head level look forward for, and those are the points that I have captured here. So I am ready to take up questions if any.
Yeah, thanks Santosh for such an insightful presentation on role of HR. I request all our participants, if they have any question related to the topic, please share the same with us. Meanwhile, I request our guest speaker, Mr. Santosh, please read out question before answering them so that all our users get the commendable insight. Santosh, please open the question tab. There you can see the questions.
Yeah, so the question is, how can we make a strategic impact upon the officers? So basically, the officers, so the strategic impact could be in multiple ways. So as I always say, once the officer is recruited, I think getting him inducted into the company, aligning him to the company's vision, mission and values is very, very important. Having said that, the BU has to ensure that the officer goes through a BU induction. What the BU does, what are its product, services, solutions that it offers, the governance piece around the BU, those are important aspects that one needs to keep in mind. Besides that, I think very important is if one has to ensure that the officer is engaged, his goals and objectives needs to be clearly spelled out and signed off within a month of his joining, so that the officer knows what is expected out of him from his role. And naturally, all the infrastructure required for the officer to deliver against those goals and objectives needs to be provided. When I say infrastructure, it also means the relevant training and development programs, so that the officer is able to attend those and implement it at his workplace. So these are some of the examples that I would say that strategically we can have a strategic impact on the officer, because you are by ensuring these, whatever I shared, you are ensuring that the officer is aligned to the overall organization and BU goals and objectives, and he is driving his actions based on these objectives. Next question.
Santosh, till now we have got one question. We are waiting for another question from our participants. Again, I request all our participants, if they have any question related to the topic, please share the same with us. We have some time. Do you want to wait for some more time, Mr. Santosh?
Yeah, we can. I think there are no questions. There is one which I think is. So what do you suggest the HR to carry out a budget or matrix without having clarity on the organization goals? So I repeat the question. The question is around, what do you suggest the HR to carry out a budget or matrix without having clarity on the organization goals? So I think the very important piece is, first and foremost, is to go and ask for the organization goals. The budgets are given. Budgets normally come through finance because business is as usual running. But if HR has to align its process, align its programs, initiatives, it's very important for the HR to go and engage with the relevant stakeholders. It could be the MD, it could be the CEO, it could be the business head, and ask them what their organizational objectives are. And based on that, one needs to basically plan those various interventions. Having said that, these interventions would require budgets and the funds are allocated. Having said that, whether the funds are distributed in the right or channelized in the right direction is not, that can be measured through the matrices, which I shared. There are three parameters around the matrices. One is the efficiency, the second one is the effectiveness, and third one is the impact. So that's the answer to this question. So there is one question. These days, data science is coming as a forte for all data analysis. Do you suggest, is there a value between data analysis done through Excel sheets or the current customized packages available in markets? So, very good question. So any data that is there in the system, when you pull it out, it comes in an Excel sheet, because what we have seen most of the HR teams, the way they work is typically they would have systems and computer packages or software to capture the data. However, when they need to analyze the data, they typically pull out this data in Excel sheet and they then do a trend analysis, they do the whole slicing and dicing around the data, and hence it's both. The next question is, what is the role of HR in CSR? So it's like asking this question, quality is whose job? So firmly, my answer to this is, as we say in quality is every associate's job. Same thing applies to CSR. CSR is responsibility of each and every associate in the company. It starts with, when you walk out of your house, and we have this Prime Minister Modi launching this Swachh Abhiyan, ensuring that you are not littering the place outside your home or when you are traveling to office. So these all small initiatives leads to larger corporate social responsibility, because any associate, when he steps outside his house, he is moving towards the office. For me, he is an associate for the company. So the behaviors that he demonstrates outside is also the culture of the company in a way. So one has to take ownership irrespective of whether he is in the company or outside the company, and hence CSR is an role, or it is not only the HR which will drive CSR. What HR typically does is HR engages with the relevant stakeholders, because if you look at the new bill which has come, the responsibility has moved up to the board of directors as well. So it ensures that basically the strategy, the objectives in terms of what should be the focus area of the CSR, basically those are captured in the policies and that is published. The HR will ensure socializing of the policies and all. However, driving the CSR across the company or rolling out of the program is the responsibility of each and every associate, because we owe it to the society at large and we need to act like a responsible citizen of this country. The next question is, what are the different factors that determine the span of management? So typically the thumb rule is, a manager can manage 7 to 8 team members, and when we are talking about management, we are talking about effective management, wherein you are engaging with the associate regularly, where you are setting his goals and objectives, interacting with him periodically, providing relevant feedback, ensuring you are taking care of his development needs. So when you look at span of control, it also means that these are the works expected from the manager. So the thumb rule is typically 7 to 8. That is what the management books share. But having worked in IT industry, we have seen the span of control extends up to 20 to 25 as well. Reason could be because we have challenged that at most of the time. But since the roles are same, the managers believe that they are able to manage. So this debate continues to be there in the various meetings that we have, but that's my perspective.
Thank you,
Any other
Santosh.
questions?
No, that's all what we have from our question and answer round.
Thank you.
So I am really thankful for our guest speaker for taking so many questions and conducting this webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for making this webinar a success. The recording of this webinar will be available on our website, that is techgeek.com, by tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, Gaurav, all participants for patiently listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. Have a great evening.
Thanks.